Welcome to the ISO for Growth, the podcast where we strip away the jargon and help small business owners build better, stronger, and more scalable companies through the power of ISO standards. Let's get started. Tracy, welcome to the ISO for Growth podcast. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank
I know you're
having
a
me.
really busy woman, so hopefully we won't take up too much of your time. But like I said, I really appreciate your input into this fairly new podcast. So for our listeners, Tracy, I know we know each other quite well, but for our listeners, tell us who you are and a bit about your business.
Okay, so I am officially Tracy Simpson-Reeves, but it's like a huge mouthful. Myself and Scott, work with or have a company called Automatic Opening Vents.
Mm-hmm.
We are actively involved in the smoke ventilation industry, which we do natural smoke ventilation and mechanical smoke ventilation, and we also supply and install automatic doors. Smoke ventilation is very much around keeping the communal corridors and the stairwells free for people who have to escape in the unfortunate event of a fire, which has become highly regulated, and rightly so, on the back of the tragedy which was Grenfell approximately 10 years ago. So that has changed our industry tremendously.
Yeah.
We are 10 years old in May.
Wow.
And as with all businesses, you go through the ups, the downs, the learning curves, and we aim for hopefully sort of continuous growth and getting better at what we do. It's continual improvement. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. So what kind of industries do you work with then?
Okay, so we work with property management companies who have apartment blocks and live buildings with people living in, which is quite at the forefront at the moment with all the cladding issues and everything like that. We work with property developers, new builds. We work with, who else do we work with? Mechanical and engineering companies.
Right.
So it's, and also building owners and end users. So we have a wide range of organisations that we work with, from sort of small property developers right through to large multinational building companies and main contractors.
All right. And you'll have your engineers scattered around the UK and...
Well, we don't have... smoke vent engineers are very much...
is it quite niche?
Very niche.
Yes.
They are. They're like golden unicorns.
Right.
So we do have a nucleus of 2 engineers who are sort of trained in with a lot with our partner, SE Controls, but we also use a network of subcontractors.
Right.
So again, who are highly regarded in the industry.
Yeah.
So that allows us to cover nationwide, because even though we're based in Huddersfield, our name is Automatic Opening Vents UK. So we do cover not much Scotland. There's a wonderful company called WM Brown who cover Scotland.
Okay.
And there is another smoke vent company who, she'll kill me if I can't remember the name. Go back. And but yeah, we do cover the whole of the UK.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Sounds exciting. And challenging as well. I bet it's quite challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting.
Yeah. So, Tracy, we've been working together for around about maybe 4 years, I think, maybe.
Might be longer.
Longer than that.
Might
oh, my
be,
God.
because I think we've had our ISO certification. We've just had our recertification last year, so it must be nearly 6. It might be.
Oh my God, you've got a better memory than I. Oh my God.
Does it go I think it goes in cycles of 3 years. It does,
every 3 years. That's right.
Yeah, it might 4 or 5. Yeah. Time flies.
It does, but it's been a good relationship.
It's superb, to be honest.
So looking back over those years, anyhow, before you had ISO, I mean, talk to me about what the business was like. Because I know you're an advocate for ISO, and in this instance, you've got 9001, which is a quality management system. But what was your business like? So you've been operating 10 years, coming up to 10 years now, and we've been working together around about 5, potentially six years. So you've had a few years without your quality management system in place. What was the business like then?
I think it's like a lot of startups where you do tend to not focus initially on the processes and procedures, and you don't necessarily have to have document ones. So you start off being driven by what the industry needs. And for us, it's always been a compliance-led industry, because with smoke vents, we started out very much doing the actual smoke vents themselves and the actuators, not necessarily the controls. So we still had an element of auditing that we needed to do. So, but it was paperwork, as is with a lot of organisations. You've got your handwritten job sheets. Everything's through Excel spreadsheets. Everything's on a whiteboard. So we've always had processes and procedures, but nothing really documented as such that would, certainly not a management system that looks at other things beyond your day to day, that looks at sort of your what's sort of risks, and looks at your sort of whether things are systemic, whether you get things right or not. So we really didn't focus too much on that
element. It was more operational, just get the job done, basically. And you're quite right, when new businesses are formed, and even when businesses have been around for quite some time, to be fair, we talk about processes. Well, everything we do is a process, whether it's in inverted commas the right process or not. It doesn't really matter at those early stages. It's actually, we're growing a business or we're starting a business. We need to get the job done, basically. And so we naturally form this process ourselves that we believe is the right process, and not often understand whether it's an efficient way of working or not.
You don't really understand that until you get into it, and you don't really understand, and then you look, you might have gaps in your processes, your outputs might not be quite what you want them to be, you might have to re-engineer your processes, so all of that. But I've massively advocate for the quality management and the management systems, because I've worked with that and come from a background of that. So I've always had that in the back of my mind anyway, with, if something's constantly going wrong, recording it. I've always had that mindset.
So you've had some elements of a management system. Well, you've had a management system in place. We're not saying that it was compliant to 9001 at that particular moment in time, but you had a management system and you took on board, where if things were going wrong, or having, clear processes in place the team could follow.
Well, I think what happened when we first started out, because I've come from an organisation where it was a fleet management company in Huddersfield, and one of the things we had to do, we won the highways contract, and on the proviso of that was we had to implement 45,001 odd HSG 65, the environmental one 14,001 and 9,001, and it had to be implemented within 3 years. Otherwise the contract was taken away. So I was involved. I was on the internal audit team for that. So I was involved in the implementation. So I've come with that mindset anyway. And when we first started the business, we had somebody who I worked with at FMG, and she's process driven. She's like Six Sigma and everything. And we were sort of trying to hash out the processes before we'd actually started doing the job. But it didn't work because we didn't really know what we were doing. So we were trying to, let's do we change the job numbers here? What do we do? So we were trying to create a framework without understanding what that framework should be. And it wasn't until we'd been going for 3 or 4 years that we understood what our processes were, how to improve them. And then the sort of the 9001, there was a business need for that, which but that's sort of, it seemed to fall at the right time.
So what was that time then? Was it getting your processes fundamentally right in your own eyes, or was it a case of something's not quite working out, and we believe, given that your background in quality management system, you believe that the 9001 would help along with the business needs?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's understanding, because this is an industry that I have came into knowing absolutely nothing about. So it was when I started to understand, or we started to understand, Scott did, me, what it was we needed to do, and then you could put the processes. It's like trying to drive, getting into a car and trying to make it move without actually understanding how to do it, and it doesn't work. But because one of the things we do is a smart vent, and that has to be certified to something called ISO 12101 Part 2. and it falls under something called a factory production process, which means it's a system one. So because it's a life safety product, every element of the production of that has to be auditable, traceable.
Yes.
And the company who puts it on the market, which is our main partner, SC Control, have to know for definite that that product has been done and the actuators and everything has been done in exactly the right way.
Right.
It has to be auditable. You have to produce all these documents to say that you've done it.
Right.
So we had to have an internal audit every year to show that competence. But there's two things that we have. We've got something called SDI 19, which is for smoke ventilation installs. And if we had that alongside ISO 9001, then we would no longer need to be audited specifically by SE controls, because they would deem the fact that we had 9001 alongside SDI 19 as evidence for them that we had the correct systems, processes and procedures. So that really was the tipping point for us with 9001. It's well, okay, so if we have 9001 alongside this, then that elevates our competence within the industry, and it sort of highlights to our customers, suppliers, etc., that we do have the correct process and procedures, and we are doing things like we should do. So that was the it's always we probably would have done it anyway, because I think it's fabulous. But that was the benefit to the business of having 9001. And also when we fill in for suppliers, because post Grenfell things have become much more competency led. When we're going for tenders, we have to fill in pre-questionnaires. And it's ultimately, do you have ISO 9001? Yes, tick box. That's it. Do you have ISO 14001? Tick box. If you don't have those, then you have to evidence that. So each time you fill in one of those PQQs, you've got to spend an hour, 2 hours redoing the same amount of evidence for your suppliers. Whereas if you've got the ISOs, then you just tick your box. Thank you very much. So it does allow you to tender in different markets and go and that obviously, if you're allowed to tender for higher value projects, then that's going to lead to growth, and then that's you're not hitting the ceiling there. You're allowed to break through the ceiling and grow your business because of the quality management systems and the environmental and the health and safety.
Okay.
Wow. Helping us with.
Okay. So most people get intimidated by ISO 9000. Well, not even 9001. They just get intimidated by ISO in general. We had a certification body come on our podcast a few weeks ago, and they were talking to us about their perspective, coming into businesses. If in the very old days, it would be a big stick approach and, very heavy on the business owner. I'm sure you remember all those days.
Yeah, because the first time I got involved with this was about 35 years ago.
Wow. We'll say that quietly.
It was actually my first job from leaving school. So I've been 17, 18, and it was for a company called Hillbrook Printing Inks, who manufactured printing inks for the flexographic printing industry. And back then, we were involved with instigating BS 5750.
Oh my gosh.
Which is the predecessor.
That's going back some time.
It is, to 9001. But that was really process driven. That was really non-conformances. So if you got an ink that didn't match the colour, it was a non-conformance, and you had to fill in like a triplicate form. And I know it's developed so much since then.
Massively.
So... And then with FMG, and I've worked for other companies, so I am a massive advocate for it, but I still find being audited daunting.
So, I mean, you're quite right. The approach to implementing and being audited against ISO systems now have improved massively. The certification bodies now are coming into businesses and they want to help add value and ultimately ensure that your business is compliant to the ISO standard that you have chosen. So talk me through how I know you've got the background in it. So, but even though you have got the background, did it still feel like a daunting task?
Yes and no. And no, because Synagos helped us with the management system and the internal audit. So
Yeah.
when I was involved with it, with FMG, we had a quality manager and I worked closely with her. So we had to do all of the management system and all of that, which if I would have found it more daunting had you not been there to do that, which meant that we could focus on what matters for us, which is the quality of the business. So now we do what we say we're going to do, and are we meeting the needs of our customers? Are we recording everything? So because Synagos did that, that allowed us to focus on that, and then we bring it together. So, but being audited it's natural, isn't it? You sort of sat there and it's like being at school and having an exam, and you want someone to say, "Oh, that's amazing."
Yes.
So, but it's an achievement, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. Even though we're not being audited ourselves, we feel, we're very much part of your team, and we feel as though we've got that responsibility to ensure that it goes through smoothly.
Yeah. So no, it's interesting as well, because what it does is it allows you to put on a different pair of glasses, and particularly in a smaller business, you're very much involved with it. You can't see the wood for the trees. You think you're doing the right thing. You're not quite sure. So what it allows you to do is put a pair of glasses on, particularly when you have an internal audit and look at it from a different perspective. And in doing so, that hopefully allows you to improve.
That's right.
So you sort of, are we doing the right thing? Is it working? What can we do to change it? And then you're just constantly reviewing what you're doing.
You said earlier, continuous improvement,
Absolutely,
which is what it's certainly all about. So how did your team react then did you have, in fact, a question I should ask, were there any new processes that the ISO, in this case, the ISO 9001, was implemented into the business? Did you have to put something new in?
Yeah, I think it was more of a framework around documenting the legislation. So we have a lot of legislation that we need to and guidelines. So they're all in a file. So it was putting that in a centralised place and allowing you to focus on that. It was also making sure you had like a risk register and an issues log. So things that you may do naturally, like why do we keep having that problem? What's going on? What it does is it makes you put it into a document that then you can assess and look at and change if needs be. So there was additional processes that we added around the business, but that's more to scaffold it really and make sure that those systems and processes are working.
Yes. And was it difficult to get the team on board into following those new procedures?
Well, we're procedure driven anyway. So nobody's ever really gone, why are we doing this?
Okay.
What's the point? It's too process driven. Nobody's ever really done that.
Good.
But ultimately, a lot of that high level stuff's done through Scott and I anyway. So what happens when we cascade that down? I don't know whether we hit any resistance there. I don't know, but not really anything.
That you could shout out about. And well, and that's really good because, any good management system has to ensure that the top management are heavily involved with it, which is clearly you and Scott are involved. And because your team can see you embracing the official 9001 system, it's natural for them to do so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably don't even think about it, to be honest. So maybe you should go and ask them. See what they say.
I'm sure they're actually happy. As long as you're happy, I'm sure they'll be happy. So beyond getting the badge, we call it the badge. Beyond putting it on your email footer or on your website, has it actually opened up more opportunities for you as a business, or has it just made life a little bit easier? I mean, you touched on the PQQ element.
I think it does open up opportunities because ultimately, when you, again, post Grenfell in our industry, we've got the new building regulations that are coming into force. So there's something called Gateway now in the Golden Thread. So high risk buildings, anything that is 7 stories or more above ground, or 30 metres, are classed as a high risk. So
Okay.
if they have to go through something called gateway, so it's to stop the design and build where you get something on site and then you're changing it and it's not working. So you have to put forward this is what we're going to build. This is all the compliant products. And then you have to do it. And then you have to evidence that you've done it. And it's called the golden thread. So because people are working in that environment, they need to make sure that everybody who they work with can show an evidence competency, because the people who put the products and do the work they take responsibility ultimately. And the way to prove competency is through quality management systems and auditable systems, because otherwise that the company who are instructing you have to check themselves, and they would rather that be done by a third party and an accredited third party that could do that. So yes, absolutely, having 9001 does open doors, which is the other reason why we as a business are now going to be doing 14001.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing 45001, which is the environmental and health and safety, because that will open up more doors for us.
Right.
And ultimately that's the only way we can grow, because if we want to do higher value contracts, if we want to show our evidence, if we want to be the best company of our size that we can be, that's what we need to do. We need to embrace the quality standards and the management systems.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. So our podcast is called ISO for Growth.
Yes.
Can you point to a specific door that opened up as a result of the 9001 in this instance, and the doors that will open up when you bolt on your other standards?
I think as a partner of SE Controls, when we sort of started out, they've been massively helpful and massively integral to our growth. But I think the fact that we said, hey, we've got 9001, I think was really good for us, because then they're saying, oh, AOV UK are taking this seriously. They want to be really good. So I think on the back of that, then that gave us an accreditation that we needed to have. And again, I think when you are dealing with some of the larger main contractors, they do look for that. They really do. And they, as things are becoming more competitive, it is highly likely, if you haven't got an SSIP or a management system, you won't even get through the tender stage, to be honest. And if you're not going to get through the tender stage, you're not going to grow as a business.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So if you could go back and speak to yourself 4 or 5, 6 years ago, or speak to any business owner listening to this podcast, and they're actually sitting on the fence at this moment in time, what advice would you give them?
I would give them advice of discussing things and understanding, going back and saying, well, what is it? Understanding, first of all, what a quality management system is, because it's very easy just to see it as a box that you tick on a form. And if you just see it as a box that's ticked on the form, are you really going to get the benefit for the business?
Okay.
Why are you actually doing it? Are you doing it because you want to have a quality culture within your business? Are you doing it because you want to integrate that culture from top management down? And if you have that culture within your business, then that's ultimately going to transfer to your customers.
Yes.
It has to, it does. It's a natural thing.
Yeah.
So first of all, why are you wanting to do this? Are you wanting to do it for the right reasons? And if you want that quality culture, if you want to be the best version of you that you can be, then why are you not doing it? Because it is more than a ticking of a box, and you actually learn about your business in doing so.
You're absolutely right, Tracy, because, sadly, there are some businesses who just see it as a tick box exercise and they're not seeing the full benefit of it. They see, we'll get clients coming to us and saying, well, we need it because our supplier said we've just got to get it. We need this ISO thing, and don't really understand. But actually, once they have it embedded and we're supporting them, they get to understand the actual benefits that it's helping their business and really changing the mindset. So if it's quality, the mindset
Absolutely.
shifts, doesn't it, around quality? If it's health and safety, again, it shifts, doesn't it?
Because it has you focus on what you need. It's,
Yes.
you're going out and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've got nothing to wear. What am I going to do? I just need to go and buy something.
Yeah.
But if you sort of don't buy something and you focus on what you've got, what have I got? How to kind of make it work? How can I get the benefit of what we've already got?
Yeah.
And I think, don't just stop, to be honest, for me, don't just stop at 9001, particularly how things are going now with the environment, bolt on 14001, because they fit together really, really nicely. And again, it helps you to focus on your environmental impact as a business. And if it is relevant, do health and safety as well.
Yeah.
If it's not, then...
And I agree with you, Tracy. The ISO management systems have to be relevant to your business, to your industry. We're not here to force all these ISO systems onto a business, and ultimately it's got to help them, make internal improvements and then ultimately external improvements as a result of the internal improvements being correct. But what I love about the ISO systems is that you're quite right. Earlier on in the conversation, we talked about that you had great processes already in place, and what the ISO management system gave you the opportunity was to broaden that understanding, broaden that framework. So as your business grows, you've got that good foundation that, I know I can identify my risks. I'm looking at my risks and reviewing those risks. I'm looking at my objectives. I'm understanding what's going wrong, making those changes and looking out for trends within those.
And the other thing as well is, I'm sure larger businesses do this, but as a small business, when you do your management review, there are some sort of business tools that you will use.
Yes.
So you will do a pestle analysis.
Yeah.
So it makes you, whether you consciously do it in the day-to-day running or not, it makes you look at all the different external elements that could. So your political, your environmental, your social, your legal, everything that comes under your pestle. Then it makes you look at what are your internal strengths and weaknesses, what are your opportunities and threats. So it invokes that strategy that you have to have that you should have as a business,
particularly a business that wants to grow.
Exactly. Yeah. Because otherwise, you just sort of
just plodding along, aren't you?
Ticking along.
Yeah.
And it's that's a really, but it's also important for me that your processes and procedures, once they're in, are not set in stone. So we've changed. We've gone from paper. We're looking now at incorporating a different software, because as you sort of get like that, and then you grow a bit, and then you just because you've got 9001, and just because you say you do things in a certain way, you can change, and you should change, and you should always be looking at, is there something better?
You're 100% right, because the management system sits on continuous improvements. There's this cycle of plan, do, check, act.
Deming's quality cycle.
And you've just got to keep going, because there's no point in just getting this lovely certificate, shouting on the rooftops, we've got ISO, whatever, and then doing nothing with it.
Do you not think that comes down to your top management though, and that sort of reason why you want to do it? If you just want a tick box, then that's all you're going to do. You're going to tick your box, and then you're going to panic once a year when you've got your audit, and then you're going to panic again when you've got your research. Whereas if you embrace it and you really want to make it work, then hopefully when they come and audit again, they go, wow, well, this is fab. And then, and that's what you do. And then when it's easier to bring new people in, because you've got a framework for them to work towards. And again, getting the right people allows you to grow. So there isn't really anything bad about it, is there?
Well, I don't think so. I'm glad you don't think so too.
I like it.
Lovely. Well, Tracy, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate our lovely conversation. It's nice to hear, yes, you are a client of ours, but it's nice to hear how passionate you are about the ISO system as much as what we are, and that, it's fully embedded in your business. When you have new people joining the business, it's one of the first things they get told about. We've got an ISO, in this instance, 9001, and what it means, and their role within that framework.
But the reality of you've been there to support us, and you know, we may not have had the same experience had we been with somebody else, but the way you sort of, there's nothing that's rammed down anybody's throats. It really is a sort of a supportive, helpful
partnership, I would
it is
like
a
to call
partnership
it.
because you listen and understand.
Mhm.
You use your expertise around the management system itself and how that works, and then you align that with the business itself. And so I'm sure that every business you deal with, you do differently because you adapt to their needs.
Absolutely. And that's the best way to have a management system. It's not the management system you're going in. You know, we would never go into a business and turn it upside down.
Yeah.
We're going there to understand how they operate and then see how we can fit this ISO system into place. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. I love
No
this.
worries.
I hope
Thank
you
you.
come back again one day when you're not so busy.
Try to.
We can look at some other aspects of ISO management systems. Maybe
Thank
when
you.
you've got another one implemented in, and we can see how
well, hopefully by the
that's
back end of
going.
this year we'll have 14 and 45.
Yeah.
So see how that goes.
Lovely. Super.
Thank
Thank you. See ya.
Cheers. Bye.
That's all from today's episode of ISO for Growth. Remember, ISO isn't designed to cause you stress. It's the foundation that allows you to grow your business. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the follow button. I'll be forever grateful. I'm Jenny Kilburn, and I'll see you next week.